Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into America's AI Action Plan, a strategic document from July 2025 that is all about one thing: how the U.S. can win the global race in artificial intelligence.
Right out of the gate, you can see this isn't just about cool new tech. The plan frames artificial intelligence as a high-stakes global race. And this quote, it really sets the tone. It's urgent, and it ties AI leadership directly to national security.
So the goal here is crystal clear. The U.S. and its allies need to win this thing decisively. And you gotta understand, the stakes are absolutely massive. The winner doesn't just get a leg up, they literally get to write the rules for the future. And we're talking huge economic and military benefits.
Okay, so how exactly does the U.S. plan to pull this off? Well, it's not a one-trick pony. The whole strategy is built on three core pillars, and they're all designed to work together. You've got innovation, infrastructure, and international diplomacy.
All right, let's dive into pillar number one: accelerate innovation. This one is pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about speed, creativity, and basically creating the perfect environment for America's private sector to just go for it and lead the charge in AI. And to actually make that happen, the plan gets specific. It lays out 4 key objectives. First, cut the bureaucracy and red tape. Second, really push for open-source AI models. Third, empower American workers for this new reality. And finally, make sure these AI systems protect fundamental values like free speech. Now, a huge piece of this innovation puzzle is a big policy shift. The plan points out that President Trump actually rescinded a previous executive order. Why? Because, according to this document, it was creating what they called an onerous regulatory regime. So the move was all about clearing the path for the private sector to move fast. Let's talk about the open source angle, because this is a really interesting strategic move. The idea here is that if you make American-developed AI models, ones that are built on American values, open and free for everyone, they'll become the go-to standard around the world. Everyone else will just start building on top of them. But you might be asking, what about jobs? That's a huge question, right? Well, the plan puts forward what it calls a worker-first agenda. The goal is to use AI to help American workers, not just replace them. And that means a huge focus on skill development, things like tax-free reimbursements for training and real support for anyone whose job is affected by all this change. Okay, so all that innovation is great, but it needs power, right? And it needs a physical foundation to run on. And that brings us right to pillar number 2. Building the massive infrastructure an AI economy needs. We're talking about the real-world nuts and bolts here. And the plan doesn't mince words on this. It uses this really energetic, direct slogan, "Build, baby, build." It's a clear call to action, and it signals a pretty strong rejection of what the document calls bureaucratic red tape. The message is, let's get building fast.
So what are we building exactly? The focus is on 3 absolutely critical areas. You need the data centers to do all the heavy lifting and process the information. You need a seriously upgraded energy grid to power those data centers. And crucially, you need the factories right here at home to make the advanced chips that are basically the brains of this entire operation.
Let's talk about the energy, because AI's appetite for power is just massive. So to feed that beast, the plan details a 3-step strategy for the grid. Step 1 is stabilize. Don't let existing power plants shut down prematurely. Step 2 is optimize. Use new tech to make the grid we already have way more efficient. And finally, step 3 is grow. Bring on new, reliable power sources, specifically calling out things like nuclear and geothermal.
And then, of course, you got the chips. You could argue they're the single most critical piece of the puzzle. The goal here is simple: bring semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States. And the proposed way to do that is by streamlining the CHIPS Act. The plan talks about removing what it calls extraneous policy requirements to really fire up the domestic supply chain and make sure taxpayer money is getting a good return. Okay, so that's the domestic side. But winning this AI race isn't just about what happens at home. And that brings us to the plan's global ambition, pillar number 3. This is all about projecting American leadership and American standards all across the world. So the foreign policy game plan here really breaks down into 3 parts. First, you arm your allies with American tech. Second, you actively push back against competitors' influence when it comes to setting global rules. And third, you play some really strong defense by making sure sensitive tech doesn't end up in the wrong hands.
And you can really see how this diplomatic playbook is supposed to work in practice. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It lays out a custom strategy for every major player. For our allies and partners, it's about sharing the whole tech stack: hardware, software, the works. For China, The strategy is about countering their influence and containment. And for international bodies, the goal is to push for innovation-first rules that align with American values.
And let's be clear, this part is presented as totally non-negotiable in the plan. The idea of controlling who gets their hands on advanced AI chips, that's not just a trade issue. No way. It's framed as a core part of national security. It's about controlling the one resource that is absolutely essential for the next generation of power.
So, as we get to the end of the document, it pulls back from the specific policies, and it closes with this really grand, sweeping vision of what winning the AI race could actually mean for America.
This is really the closing argument of the whole plan. It frames AI as something much bigger than just another piece of tech. It's pitched as a pivotal moment in history, like an industrial revolution, an information revolution, and a renaissance, all happening at once. And this incredible, revolutionary future is presented as a prize that is right there for America to seize.
So, what we have here is one very clear, very aggressive roadmap to victory. It's built on speed, on massive infrastructure, and on global influence. And the question it really leaves you with isn't just if a plan like this can work, but what does it truly take, and what might it cost to win a technological race that's probably going to define the entire next century?